everyone, and welcome to Transforming Today Show. I'm your host, Rebecca Weintraub, and I'm an intuition coach. I help people develop and strengthen their intuition. So today I have the pleasure of having Carolyn Mahboubi. How are you, Carolyn?
I'm well, Rebecca. Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome. So tell our audience what type of coaching you do.
Thanks, Rebecca. I am a certified mindset coach, an IPEC certified coach. IPEC is one of the top schools for coaching. And when I say mindset coach, I work with my clients to shift their mindset from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And I have male, female clients of different ages. So for me, it's really about working with whoever is really open and has arrived in that place in their life when they are really ready to do the work of transformation.
I love it. What a perfect fit. And we were drawn to each other. We just, sometimes I post, I'm looking for coaches to interview, and we just gravitated towards each other.
And I'm not surprised because intuition is a big part of the work of coaching. And so when I saw that this is really something that you focus on and, you teach others, I was very drawn to that.
Yeah. I'm so glad to have you here too. And here at Transforming Today Show, it wouldn't be Transforming Today Show if we didn't sort of change things up every once in a while. And so Carolyn and I were just kind of creatively talking. We thought we'd start with a new chapter of showing you what powerful coaching is. Up until this point, we've had wonderful, amazing coaches, and we've been talking about what they do, but we really haven't showed you what powerful coaching is. So today we're taking a stab at what that looks like, so you guys can understand if you've never hired a coach before. We'll give you a little bit of a taste of what powerful coaching is. Something that's coming up for me is around control. I seem to have fallen victim by choice to people who are comfortable controlling others. And I feel like I've been controlled by others probably since my childhood. And I never really realized it. And now I'm coming to a place in my life where I really recognize that I am susceptible to other people's suggestions.
Rebecca, tell me a little bit more specifically what you would like to work on today in this session.
I think it's really around the power of standing up and saying no. There aren't too many times in my life that I've really said no with conviction. I've been more passive when it comes to control and power. And I think my tendency is to just kind of let things fade or wiggle out of something or not confront something directly head on. And so I'm starting to practice doing that, and it feels a little uncomfortable, but at the same time, it feels incredible. The first part of the goal is to recognize when it's happening. And the second part is to kind of stop it as quickly as possible.
And how will we know by the end of this session that we've been successful?
Sometimes success is just a mindset shift, or sometimes it's feeling more empowered, or sometimes it's a new realization.
For you today?
I think for me, it's just confirming that I'm doing the right thing. Confirming that when I don't feel like something's right, when something's off, being able to trust that completely and know that my intuition is really strong, and be able to believe that and kind of stick up for myself or ask for what I want, or be able to say no.
And Rebecca, why is this important?
I mean, it's important on two levels, I think. The higher level is, this is a pattern of mine. And a lot of times, we have patterns that we don't even know we're partaking in or that we're wrapped up in. And so this is a huge pattern that I've just discovered that I want to break. And the other part of this is really being able to stand up and say no for the first time.
Why is that important? Being able to stand up and say no.
At a very young age, I couldn't say no. And so it, I guess I was wired to just do what I had always done. And as a child, you don't really, unless you're taught, you don't know to say no.
But why is it important today for you in the life that you are living now?
Because I had something recently happen where I'm sort of still in it. I'm not, I actually, I was being led by someone. And when that person kept suggesting something to me, I kept saying, that's not me. I don't want to do that, and in their mind, it was to benefit me. But I kept saying that doesn't feel right to me, or even though it's a good suggestion, I'm not going to do it. And it's hard because I'm really not sure if I was resisting something that would actually help me, or if I really was standing up and saying no to something that I really didn't want. So I'm kind of still in the middle of both.
What I'm hearing from you is that you want clarity around your decisions to stand up for yourself. So it sounds like you are standing up for yourself. It sounds like you are saying no when something doesn't sound right to you, but that there's still, this kind of lack of clarity inside you about whether it was the right thing you did or the wrong thing. You're looking for more clarity, more of a sense of certainty and less self-doubt when you stand up and say no to someone based on your own intuition and does that sound about right, or am I off?
I like that you said that, and I like that you specifically said the word certainty, because I was just thinking last night about the difference between certainty and uncertainty, and how for me, I need more certainty in my life than uncertainty. Mm-hmm. It's not a balance for me. I actually probably need 70% certainty versus 30% uncertainty. And that's just how I like to operate. Like, that's where I feel most comfortable, but it doesn't prevent me from growing.
Yes.
It's still the right recipe for me. And so what I liked about what you said is that when I'm in that balance of the 70-30 and I'm comfortable there, my intuition can thrive. And I really trust it 100%, like 1,000%. Like, I have no problems like trusting it in that way. But when I'm being led by someone else, and to be clear, like, I've been in cults before, and I've had people who have been master manipulators in my life before. I've never said no, and I've always questioned whether I should be saying no or not. So it's weird because this is a new area for me to be trusting my intuition.
Yes.
Like, completely brand new area.
Yes. Yes. It makes a lot of sense, especially now that you gave me a little bit of background. It makes so much sense that you would question yourself, because you've had this history of, being in environments where you've gone along with what, the general feeling or what somebody was telling you and all of that. My question really is, though, when you say you need more certainty, what do you mean by certainty? What does certainty mean to you?
For me, it means like routine. It means something that's predictable, something I can rely on. It means not having to waste energy on whether something's going to change or not. I can use my energy to create or do other things. And it's weird because I've had a lot of change in my life recently, and it's proven to me that it is not good for me. like for me, change comes with growth, like personal growth. It does not necessarily come with geographic change or even a job role change or, you know, something like that.
Yes.
It really has to do with my personal growth, which is where I like my change to happen. The rest almost needs to be steady and stable with that uncertainty with that certainty in order for me to keep growing as a person.
So you want the outside environment to be kept as, let's call it static, as non-changing as possible.
Yes, because I find like so many other things in my life always somehow are changing. So I need like almost like the box I'm sitting in to be completely stable, but then things inside the box can stir around or do whatever they want. But it's like instead of evolving the box into something different, like the container I'm in needs to be steady.
Okay, that's understandable. So tell me a little bit about the container within, the container within which you are. So what are the elements of that container?
I mean, really, it's just a feeling. It's a feeling of safety. That's what it was. I mean, I went to Florida for 9 months and I knew right away that I didn't feel safe. And then it had kind of a weird energy and it wasn't for me. It wasn't for my husband either. We both decided we needed to leave and come back to Maryland. And
Yeah.
it all came back to safety.
So the feeling of safety is driven by a thought. What were you thinking? What was the main thought when you were in Florida that was creating this feeling of unsafe?
Major uncertainty. Major. Like it was so open-ended, like anything could have happened. Like I couldn't rely on anything there. I felt like I was like in free fall and I had no plan for landing safely if I were to stay in Florida.
So if you were going to put that in a sentence for me, the thought, what would it be?
I mean, this is probably too specific, but this is what's coming up. I'm unsafe if I'm not in Maryland.
Okay, well, no wonder. Because if that's the thought that's driving your feelings and consequently your actions and your results, then anywhere outside of Maryland would have felt unsafe to you.
That's an interesting theory. That may be right. I'm not sure. That could possibly be right. I mean, for me, the reason why Maryland feels safe to me is because I have community here, and because I have stability here. I have people in my life that I'm physically close to, and I might not even see them often, but just the fact that their energy is planted here
Yes.
feels like nothing bad could happen. And even if something bad happened, like it would be okay.
Yes, of course. It makes all the sense in the world. If community is what grounds you, and that's what I'm hearing from you right now, because you're saying, look, Carolyn, I can deal with all kinds of changes inward, and clearly you're also somebody who can deal with changes in the outside world, you know, of changing. You took a chance to change cities and change jobs, and sort of you and your husband uprooting yourselves and going somewhere else. So you definitely have an adventurous spirit, and you know, you're willing to try new things. And also being a coach yourself, a life coach, I'm sure you are coaching your clients to change. This is what we do. This is at the core of what we do. But I think what we're narrowing in here is that there is a foundation for you, a pillar that you need in order to feel grounded and centered, and that is community. And that community can be created in other places, but maybe you don't want to. Maybe the cost of it is too high. I don't know. The fact is that it already exists for you in Maryland.
Yeah, and it's more so than community. It's a collection of energy.
Mm.
So it's, and like I said, it's not that I see people here all the time that I'm friends with. It's just, it really comes back to energy for me. Like the
Yeah.
energy here is stable. I've got I've got people that I love and really love me that are just, I
Yes.
can feel their energy here. I can feel it. And I need to be able to feel that. And I was like so far away from that. And then everyone else's energy in Florida, people from all over the world or all over the United States, it's like it's a collection of energy that is confused
Yes.
because there's nothing to fold into. Like here in Maryland, it's so calm and even. Like, and I'm not sure if I'm just really sensitive to it and that's like how I feel it, but it's a neutral energy. When you go to New York, it's like a hustle bustle energy, right? Like everybody's on the go, but it also has order. In Florida, there's no order and everybody's kind of going at a different pace. And then some people are like this. So it's kind of like it's like avant-garde jazz, but which I absolutely love, but it's almost like a warp world of avant-garde jazz energy. I know that might sound crazy, but that's just how I experience it.
I hear you. So if there was a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not at all grounded, completely off, off center, not grounded, and 10 being completely centered and grounded, where were you in Florida?
Like a -10.
Just off the charts, like below 0,
Yeah.
completely not grounded.
Yes.
And what number would you give it at home where you are now in Maryland?
Well, it is a 10. It's a
It's
10.
10.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I think what's become clear to us is that for you to be able to just trust yourself, focus on yourself, be able to show up for yourself, you have to feel grounded,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? And I mean, there's no surprise in this. I think that's a real human element. And for you specifically, though, to feel grounded, you need the energy around you to be a match for your internal energy. You're giving Maryland a 10. That's a really high number. You're saying the energy here makes me feel completely grounded. So that's one element, one decision that you've made in your life recently
Mhm.
that will allow you to show up for yourself more and to stay grounded more. What else? What else does Rebecca need in order to stand up for herself, but really to show up for herself? Because standing up for yourself sounds almost defiant, and that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a kind of just knowing inside that you're good with whatever decision you make. If it's a no, if it's a yes, and that there's really no self-doubt because there's really no right or wrong. It's just Rebecca showing up for Rebecca. What is it going to take?
I've seen enough in life to know that serendipitous moments are absolutely real. That miracles are completely real. And I know that to my core, like to the point of where I see miracles all the time and I have serendipitous moments happen to me all the time. And that's when I'm grounded and I feel safe and I feel good and my intuition is strong.
Yes.
So on the opposite side of miracles, it's related, but it's almost like looking at the other side of the coin. It's still a miracle when you are getting signs that something isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you know it's like okay, so the miracle side of it, the positive miracle side, is you get this thought of a person and then they call 5 minutes later, right? Okay, we've all had that happen to us before. The opposite of that is, like, I'll give you an example. I'm trying to sell my house in Florida, and I got an offer from a woman, um, and the way the offer came in and the sort of stuff that was happening around it, I knew immediately that I had to turn down the offer, even though it was our only offer in like 2 months. It did not feel right to me. And my real estate agent and my husband were like, well, maybe we can play it out a little bit longer. And the longer we played it out, the worse it got. But I knew right away that it wasn't right. And so in that sense, it's still a miracle because it was so obvious to me. But it's not yet, the signs when something is not good for me is not as apparent as when a sign is positive, in that sort of positive, I don't want to call it positive, but in that other realm. Like, I'm so used to the serendipitous moments. I'm so used to seeing beautiful things that, that only divine intervention allows you to really see. Like, those are so obvious to me, but the red flags, if you will, like, I'm still learning to trust that those are red flags, because in my whole life I've blown through so many red flags, and it took so long to reveal that it was not the right path for me, or not the right person for me, or the opportunity for me. And so I need to kind of match knowing when something feels right, or the opposite way. I need to match knowing when something feels wrong just as much as when it feels right. And I still question when it feels wrong, but I'm getting better at just trusting in the way that I trust this other side.
As I am listening to you, though, I've heard now 3 times you mention how you were in the past. And just a moment ago, you said, in the past, I've blown through so many red flags. And we all have, by the way, every single one of us. Who are you today, though? Are you blowing past red flags today?
No, I'm not, actually.
It doesn't sound like it.
It's very new, but I'm not doing that anymore. The reason why I moved to Florida was because someone convinced me to move to Florida. And it wasn't the right decision for us. We got a lot out of it. Like, we grew so much. I mean, there were so many lessons learned, but that's when I woke up, was when I realized this wasn't even really what I wanted, but I took a chance on someone else's recommendation, but it didn't even feel right to me then, but I still did it. And so when I woke up to all of that, I was given another gift of something in my life, being able to say, no, this is not right for me. A couple things happened, like, right away. Once, that's how it works, like, you realize something and then you start practicing. And so I've had a lot of practice in the last couple weeks, being able to say no, or saying this doesn't feel right. But it's new. So I'm starting to practice now.
What if there was no right or wrong? What if you moving to Florida was not wrong, like you just called it or labeled it? What if it's exactly what you needed in order to get to a place where, like you're saying right now, I'm just saying no. I'm just saying no to things.
I actually have I don't regret anything in my life. And I felt that from when I was a kid. I knew that there was no, I knew that everything that happened to my life was supposed to happen that way. I still had choices within it, but I really have like a teaching God. Like, I refer to it as like outer power, right? I have my inner power and I have my outer power. And my outer power just loves to teach. It's not a testing power, it's a teaching power. And I feel like everything that I've gone through has absolutely been valid and worth it, and a lesson to help future Becca, do whatever I need to do in the future or right now in the present. And so even if I say Florida was a wrong decision, I don't really mean it. And I should probably be more careful about my words, because the lessons that we got from that are indescribable, and they're so valuable that I would not change 1 second of what happened. I'm just very grateful that I'm back.
That's a very powerful statement you just made. I wouldn't change a thing about it.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I did it. I would not call it wrong.
I would never change anything about my whole life either. Like, I am who I am right now today, and I love who I am because of everything that I've experienced. It wasn't all good, but everything I learned from, everything I grew from. And I love who I am today because of everything that's happened to me, everything that I chose to do. And so I can't change it. I would never change it.
I want to really feel that conviction inside that the no is coming from a really confident place. So what you're looking for is an inner shift, because what I'm hearing from you is you've already made the outer shift. To me, I haven't known you long, but you sound like you're making different decisions today in terms of showing up and saying no than you were a year ago. How true is that for you?
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Okay. So you've made the external shift, and you just want to feel like you have more trust in yourself as you are saying that no. We've recognized that one part of having that internal shift for you is for your outside box to be just less changing, more in tune with who you are, where you feel safe. And we've connected that to a sense of community. Community being very important for you to feel grounded. How on track are we?
I think that's right. But the one thing that's coming up for me that I'm realizing is that my definition of intuition is not the same as most people's definition. I think the way our society refers to intuition as like a gut feeling, they'll say, it's your gut feeling, or I just have this feeling, right? For me, intuition is much, much bigger than that. The way I look at intuition is there are 4 dimensions. There's the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And a lot of times what can happen is we're getting indicators from one or more of those dimensions. So a lot of times when people have fear or anxiety around something, that's the gut feeling that people refer to. It's like, oh, I don't want to walk down that street. Something's weird about that street. And they'll either choose a different path, or they'll say, yeah, but I can take it. And they'll go down the path, right? We have choices around it. Yes. But really, I think I've been ignoring that 3rd dimension when things come up. And I've been using my mental dimension to make decisions for me. And I'm using reason to rule out something that another dimension is trying to tell me. And then if I am not taking into consideration my 4th dimension, my spiritual dimension, like God might come in and say, okay, Rebecca, like, I'm showing you something. And then my gut could go off and say, yeah, this doesn't feel right. And then my emotions might start going because I'm being triggered, and maybe it's a fear. And now I'm filled with fear. And then my head says, you're crazy. It's fine. Nothing's wrong here. You'll be fine. You're strong enough. You're good. And then I end up proceeding when I really had a lot of indicators in these other areas trying to scream and say, no, no, no. but my mind, for whatever reason, or another part, maybe it is my emotions or something,
Yes.
mask it and don't give it a vote. And really, when your intuition is strong, it's when all four dimensions are getting a vote and they agree and it's in balance. And then you just arrive at whatever answers that you need. And so I think I've been conflicted in this one area when it is that other side of the coin, when it's not like the beautiful miracles that have something positive around it. It's a miracle that's being sent to me that isn't so positive or could be a negative thing. I just don't have enough practice balancing my four dimensions. And by the way, they do it on their own, but if I'm denying one of them, they don't have that vote. So I
Yes.
think I just need to get better at using my intuition like in a balanced way
Yes.
to make decisions around things that are red flags.
Can you think of an experience, a situation in the past where you were able to use all four dimensions in a balanced way to make a decision?
Well, knowing to come back here was so easy. Finding this house was so easy. My husband starting up his business again here in Maryland, so easy.
When you made the decision ultimately to come back to Maryland, that you were in balance with all your four dimensions?
Absolutely.
Okay. And what were the qualities in you that allowed you to be in that place of balance?
I just had a deep knowing that I had to go back. That it was, we talked through different scenarios, right? Entertaining the mental. I was longing to be close emotionally to the people that and my community that I had left. The fear and anxiety was not there in that sort of gut. It was more so propelling me to come back. This sort of, my gut feeling was, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. And then spiritually, I knew that it was right because opportunities just kept pointing towards going back to Maryland. Like it was, I didn't have to, that's the thing, when it comes to intuition, you don't have to isolate or think about this. It's more a balancing of energy in the four dimensions.
Tell me who you were in that moment.
Oh, I was completely at peace and completely feeling intuitive, and I was calm. I knew 1,000% that it was exactly what we had to do. And by the way, my husband has a very strong intuition as well. And we were completely in lockstep around this decision to come back. He felt it just as much as I did.
So can I share with you what I heard you, who I heard you say you were? At your best, where you want to be, where all four elements of your intuition were in lockstep and working well together, and where you want to be more and more and more. That's the goal you're setting. I heard you say that you were heart-centered. Okay? You were in touch with your emotions. You were heart-centered, valuing, respecting your heart. I heard you say that you were communicative. You said that you spoke with your husband, you went back and forth about the pros and cons, really, hashed it out. You said you were opportunistic, and I mean that in the best way. That's somebody who is aware and looking at all the opportunities around. Not like, kind of in the victim mindset, hiding or scared or angry, but kind of like a radar, opportunistic. Where are the opportunities here? I don't want to miss any. I don't want to miss any information. Of course, I heard you say you were authentic, but that's kind of a big, umbrella word, which is why I pressed for more details. Mm-hmm. And you said you were peaceful, that I was at peace. Peaceful, calm, and ultimately trusting is what you were, you were trusting. These qualities are you. these qualities did not come out of nowhere in that situation. These are qualities that you inhabit. They're inside Rebecca, no matter what the outside world looks like. Whether you can have them in Miami, or in Florida, you can have them, in Maryland, you can have it on the moon, you can have it in another lifetime. This is who you are. So what would it look like if you applied those characteristics to a situation now as it comes up that you say no to because you feel like it's the right thing to say no to, but obviously you want to engage all of the 4 dimensions of your intuition to support it? Who would you show up as?
It's funny because as I practice it, I feel my full power within me, but in order to not blow someone away, I have to be very calculated about how much power I let come through, because I think I've had enough things happen to me recently after figuring out this pattern of manipulation and kind of being led by others. I've gratefully had enough practice with a couple different things that just happened in the last months that already I'm feeling like myself, who I described to you,
Yes.
even in that scenario. But it's almost like maybe this is me, but it's like when you haven't stood up for yourself for a long time, and then someone gives you permission to, or you give yourself permission to speak up, it's like almost like too much comes out, because it's like you've never done it before, right? So it's just like everything's kind of spewing out, and then hopefully over time you learn how to just find the balance within it, and you can just ask for what you want normally, right? But it's for someone who hasn't done that, it's sort of explosive at first until they practice finding how they can just simply say it. For me, it's a little bit different, because the way that I work is like when I recognize something, it's like 100% there. Like it's just, I like get it. And so because I've had practice not coming out in an explosive way, because I've done that in my past, and I have learned how to just be able to moderate something. The last time I had to say no to someone, I actually left it on a voicemail, and I could hear that voicemail back. And I could tell that that there was so much power behind it, but I didn't want to hurt this person. I just needed to state how I felt about it. And it's interesting because the person still came back and tried to control me. And my way of dealing with that, which I had asked for, was I need space and I need time. And they weren't respecting that. And so instead of getting angry, it confirmed to me that much more that I wasn't crazy in thinking that this person's controlling me. It was another example of how the person was trying to do that.
It's become very clear to me in this session that people pleasing is costing you, not understanding boundaries, that boundaries is not for other people, it's for ourselves. And I'm not sure you understand that concept and are setting them clearly enough. That's costing you. And also some skills and tools around having difficult conversations so that you feel empowered to have a face-to-face, not a voicemail, a face-to-face conversation. Really show up for yourself calmly and in your power, and get your message across, and also receive without it really impacting you in a negative way, And that, it's a good feeling for us as adults to be able to have those conversations and not to fear conflict.
Viewers, this is the power of coaching, right? So we don't have endless time, right? But where we arrived was Carolyn was able to really identify the root of what is causing me to continue this pattern. So by her saying, you know, the boundaries, we need to look at your boundaries, and we need to look at what permission you're giving people. We need to look at why, you know, this keeps coming up for you. We need to look at, you know, being like conflict and being able to stand up for yourself without fearing that whatever could happen, you know. And so this is why coaching is so powerful, because, you know, we didn't talk about my history. The only question she asked me about my past was where in the past had I been successful with what we were talking about, as sort of a reference, you know, encouraging me to say, oh, I have done it in the past, so therefore I can do it now or in the future. And that's the difference between coaching and other modalities around self-help, is that we take where we are now and we move forward. How soon did you know that it was going to arrive in that sort of end place?
I didn't until we arrived there, because a coach's job is not to, you know, assume things right off the bat. Every single client is different, and you are really holding a space for the client to share with you their own knowledge as they see it, and we move forward together, hand in hand. So I was just listening and being 100% present as you were sending information my way. And we made that turn when we made it. Now, there was, you used some words throughout the entire session that led me to believe that at times you feel that you are at the effect of your life, not at the cause of your life. Okay? Controlled by, manipulated by, made me do it. Okay? These are words that, you know, we use when we feel helpless and we feel like we are really at the effect. We're not creating in those moments. So I had a clue, but, you know, it was really just when I shared with you that, okay, we can certainly have you get in touch with your greatness. Like you said, we went in the past, we saw, all right, what are the qualities in Rebecca that are non-changeable? You know, you are that person that you described. So you can take that into the next situation. But if we're going to create long-term sustainable change in you, we have to go a little deeper and look at, like you said, the patterns that are costing you. You know, you didn't call it people pleasing, but it is people pleasing for sure when you feel like, oh, you got to say yes to people. And you know, you said, I'm being manipulated. But really, I'm going to say something to you that is quite radical. People pleasing is being manipulative. Because when we people please, we want to manipulate others' opinion of us. We want to show up as something they want us to be so that they would like us. That's manipulative.
I love that you said that. I totally love that you said that. That's a realization for me that I didn't realize, because I've been very manipulative in the past, and I think that's why I'm so anti-manipulative. But look, right here, blooming in the center is this little rose of me still manipulating, and in the form of people pleasing. And I love that you just brought that to the table. That's awesome. Another thing that we talked about was certainty. Where was this, you know, this was threaded throughout the session. What was coming up for you every time we sort of circled back to certainty?
I needed to understand what certainty means to you, because there is no quote unquote certainty in life. And I know that you know that. So it wasn't about lecturing you on certainty. It was about understanding from you what certainty means to you. And by asking deeper questions, I came to understand that it means something very, very sensible. The thing that every human being wants. It means a sense of safety. Okay. So then we needed to understand what constitutes a sense of safety for you. And, you were very clear about it. It wasn't that you need 20,000 things to feel safe. You need a sense of community to feel grounded. And of course, energy is part of that, because community brings energy. People bring their own individual energies, and then a community has a communal energy that is made up of all the people in it. For you, for whatever reason, that exists in Maryland. Great. Let's honor that.
Now, I'm going to assume something, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but the level of your coaching tells me that thinking of the next question in your own head did not happen for you today, that you were really engaged in each moment, and whatever questions that you asked truly came out of whatever response I had just given you. Am I correct to assume that?
It's 100% true. The other way doesn't work. If you're in your head, then you're not listening to your client. Coaches that, have a series of questions that they ask everyone, or, sometimes they say, oh, I don't even know what to ask next. You don't know what to ask next because you were not listening to your client, because you were thinking about what to ask next. Otherwise, our clients always, 100% of the time, tell us what to ask next.
So let's talk about this, because, for me, like when I talk about intuitive coaching, when I coach, I three primary things happen. I'm clairaudient, clairsentient, and clairvoyant. So I'm either, with clairvoyance, I'm either seeing something that comes to me. I'm either hearing something beyond the words and sometimes I actually get like a sentence or a word or a phrase. A lot of my questions actually they sit right here, actually. This is where I hear them, right here. And it's coming outside of just the words that I'm actually taking in. And then the third is feeling something that's sort of deeper than maybe the surface emotion in my client. So when you were coaching me, what elements of those clairs, if you will, came up for you?
All four. I'm on your show because intuition is what you and I share in common in terms of, a very important aspect of coaching. So, when I went to coaching school, there was a lot of time spent on telling coaches, look, trust your intuition. Nobody had to tell me that. It's really what brought me to coaching, was understanding that all those clairs that you're speaking about, I see them as the same as seeing, the same as hearing, the same as touching and feeling. It's just another sense. And I trust it 100%. When it happens, I know it's happening. The same way as I'm looking at you right now, I know I'm looking at you right now with my eyes. So it's the same. What I really had to develop in order to utilize those skills was fearlessness. That I did not have when I first started. That has to be practiced the same way, when you go out into the world, you're going to now practice saying no, and then being comfortable with that and moving forward with your life and not ruminating about it. It takes practice. For me, being fearless in my coaching took a lot of practice, because it's one thing to receive the information. It's another thing to say, you know what, I'm going to ask this question, even though it might upset my client. I'm going to ask this question, even though they might hate me for it.
What question did you ask today that might have fallen into that category?
I don't even know, because, now I'm pretty much, I would say I'm a fearless coach. I made a turn where I made a commitment to it. I said to myself, you're either going to coach fearlessly or not going to coach at all. You're either going to serve your clients powerfully which means you must be fearless or you're not. So you can't be like thinking about it during a session. You just have to give yourself over to it. And look, if you lose clients, then maybe you can revisit it and be less fearless, or, you know, or some other kind of coach. But it has served me and it served my clients. And it brings me, more importantly, the best kind of clients, the ones who are like, even if they don't like hearing it, they still appreciate it and they continue to work hand in hand with me.
What did you feel like you challenged me with today?
You know, that's a tough one to answer because it wasn't about challenging you. It really, and sometimes it is about challenging clients, but not very often. If a client comes to the table with really an open heart and wanting to work with you, to understand, then it never feels like you're challenging them. It just feels like you're working together. And sometimes the work is more challenging, but it never feels like you're challenging your client. It just feels like a really deep, powerful conversation.
I like that you said that, because in a very serendipitous way, it circles back around for me, that I'm doing the right thing by saying no in the situation that I just had.
Well, you are. I mean, this is why I said, okay, I hear who you were, but let's talk about who you are. It came as no surprise to me when you said, well, yeah, I mean, who I am today, I am saying no, you know, and I'm like, yes, you are, because I could hear that, you know, I can see the woman that you are today. Maybe you yourself needed a little bit of support to see yourself as who you are today, you know, the way I see you right now.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, because when we start doing things differently, I think, like, in my mind, I'm like, well, I need to do it differently for a certain amount of time, whatever that amount of time is, in order to actually believe that I'm doing it differently, right? And it's funny because with my clients, like, you know, there was a question on our IPEC, you know, community the other day, and they were like, what if a client comes and I ask them what they want to work on and they have nothing to work on, or they don't say what they want to work on? And I just responded and I said, well, that's a time for celebration. You know, like, sometimes we have to just, like, I mean, I celebrate my clients in every single session because I just think it's so important. I never celebrated myself for much of my life. Other people celebrated me, but I always, like, would pick out the things that were wrong and try to, like, improve on the things that were wrong, you know? And so I make it a point to celebrate my clients every time I work with them. And it always happens naturally because I can see their growth. And I'm thinking of one client in particular. It's just like, sometimes the client comes on and we do Zoom calls like this, and it's just like the client looks different. I can see the growth. And the first thing I might say is, look at you. Look at you. Do you feel that? Tell me what you're feeling right now, you know, or, you know, how amazing do you feel right now? Like, because I want to help them recognize that they have changed. And a lot of times we're so forward looking at whatever our goal is or something, we don't recognize how we're changing in the interim. And so I liked that you said that to me, because even though I just started kind of standing up for myself in this new way, I don't need a certain period of time to declare that I've changed. By doing something different, by breaking that pattern, even if I'm not, like, perfect about it, or I don't feel completely 100%, you know, bold and strong and powerful about it, like, I did change something, and that should be celebrated.
There is a pattern to creating change. You know, we receive the information. For us, it's usually in our sessions with clients. They get an insight. That's information in our prefrontal lobe. Then by doing it, by practicing, you know, it starts to sink in. And then at some point, it goes into what they call our cerebellum, the seat of our unconscious, where it becomes who we are. It becomes part of our being. And then it's who we are. Okay. However, sometimes people can go from information to being very, very quickly. They don't need to do something 100 times. They were ready. They were ready. They grasp the insight. They do it a couple of times, and yes, they become that person. And it is for us as coaches and for our clients as they self-coach and they move forward to recognize that, to acknowledge that, to validate that, and to say, to change their language. It's something we talked about during our session today. You said, I want to use, I'm looking at the words. You said, I have to be more careful about my words, right? To begin to use a new language, to say, I am thoughtful, I am calm, I am whatever it is that we now have become. So I'm going to ask you, who are you today? And you would start the sentence with I am.
The second we do something differently, or the second it aligns more so with who we are, why not? Why not say, this is who I am in this second?
Exactly. And begin to say, I am that, versus, I am someone who always does this. Traditionally, the person that, people pleases. In the past, always, I'm the person that, and really change your vocabulary around that. It's very, very powerful.
All right, viewers. Well, you guys got a taste today of some excellent coaching, and we sort of did a little debrief for you coaches that are out there. We kind of flipped the other side of it and kind of talked about the behind the scenes look to coaching. So I hope you guys got a lot out of it. Carolyn, this was absolutely incredible. I loved our time together. Thank you so much for coaching me and being so willing to be open about how you coach so that others can understand exactly what you do and the passion you have for it. So thank you again. And viewers, thank you guys for hanging in there. I hope you loved it, and we'll see you next time. Bye.